And we're live. Okie dokie. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our winter Bibliomancy for beginners. That's just me and Gretchen, and we're going to be talking about American Gods. I'm going to let Gretchen introduce herself first.
Hello, I'm Gretchen. As my lower third says, there are my fingers. All right. This is my last day as a brunette with blue hair. So this is the last day. Even this haircut, thank God, because I haven't cut it since August because I was abroad and I didn't have $200 to spend on a haircut in London. So I'm going to look totally different tomorrow. So look at me while you can. In all of my very messy glory.
That's it? That's it?
That's all I got. Let's be honest. No one actually cares that I'm a junior. I'm going back to Ithaca College in 2 days.
Yep.
That's all I got.
That's it. I'm Michaela, author of the blog The Pied Piper Calls, and that's all I got. I just got my haircut today, so this is already the new hair. Isn't it great? It's great, right? You can't even tell difference. It's just less mullety in the back. That's it. That's all I got. Alrighty. Today we are going to be discussing American Gods, and we're going to be discussing it in detail, which means that later in the show there's going to be spoilers, but we're both going to give a spoiler-free, sort of like just saying, should you read it or should you not before we get into stuff. So if you do want to read the book and you haven't read it yet, wait for us to tell you whether you should or not. And then if you want to leave, you can leave and come back, or you can stay and listen to our discussion. What did you think of it, Gretchen?
Okay, well, first off, when you are searching for the cheapest, quickest option on Amazon, be aware that the 10th anniversary is over like 1,000 words longer than the original, and this book is already a monster length.
Yes.
So when you only have like 10 days to read it or whatever, don't do that to yourself because the slog that it was already going to be gets worse. And also, I now know things that like aren't in Michaela's copy, so this might get weird sometimes. I'm like, no, that happened. Yeah, no, I think for me, like, I agreed to it, knowing how big it was. It wasn't like a thing where I like got it and I was like, wow, this is really big. Am I an idiot? But at the same time, it was just like, oh man, this is a slog.
Yeah.
I really like ancient mythology though, so I really thought that was cool, like bringing all that back. And I really thought that was cool. But at the same time, I was just like, and we're going. And we're going. This is definitely one that, and I don't read books slowly. I read books like in a day. I read the 6th, 7th Harry Potter book like 2 hours. Man, they were done. So for me to say you need to commit to this book, is very, very serious. But I would recommend, if you like ancient mythology, gods, and the fanciful writing style that Neil Gaiman employs, I would definitely say that you should read it.
Yep. I would agree. I really liked it. I would also agree that it is very long, and that perhaps it didn't need to be that long because he was doing like a lot of things at once. And I'll sort of break down what I mean by that later on when we get into this. So yes, it takes a long time to read. I think I read the first section like almost a year ago and then put it down and didn't pick it up again until we were reading this now, because it was like so slow that I was like, I'm going to read something faster, and then I didn't pick it up again until now. Not that it was poorly written, it's just slow. The pacing is slow. Yes.
Oh my god.
Yes. Yes. Alrighty.
Well, I wasn't sure how much to say about that because I know there are extra things in mine. So I was like, I've never read the original. So I was just like, was that just like what he did? But yeah, oh god.
Yeah. Oh, anyway. So that was that. So yes, you should read it, but it's going to take a long time. So if you want to stop and go read it and then come back, you're welcome to do that. If you don't mind,
next year.
Yeah. if you don't mind being spoiled, or you've already read the book, which is ideal, you can listen to us discuss like all of the little intricate details about it now. If I guess I should also read the back of the book. If you haven't read it and you just were totally out of the loop of what we were just talking about, here's the back of the book. Oh, I forgot. Shadow is a man with a past, but now he wants nothing more than to live a quiet life with his wife and stay out of trouble until he learns that she's been killed in a terrible accident. Flying home for the funeral as a violent storm rocks the plane, a strange man in the seat next to him introduces himself. The man calls himself Mr. Wednesday, and he knows more about Shadow than is possible. He warns Shadow that a far bigger storm is coming, and from that moment on, nothing will ever be the same. ...
That's a really vague back jacket.
That's like the first couple pages of the book. Actually, like that's it. Alrighty. Overall impression, more detailed one. Now that we can talk about stuff in detail.
I wasn't expecting the mix. I think when I read, especially because like I had a Kindle version, so it's like I even had a back jacket, just from the general idea and the name. I wasn't expecting to see like Egyptian gods. I certainly wasn't expecting. I mean, I guessed when his name was Mr. Wednesday, being the nerd that I am and knowing what Wednesday means, but all this like when it was like Odin and there was Norse gods too, and I mean that made a little bit more sense, but I wasn't expecting how many he took from to make this world, and I really, really like that because I am an Egyptian fanatic. So when all of a sudden there was like Egyptian people, I was like, whoa! Yep. So that the nerd in me was super happy when those parts happened. At the same time, I feel like I don't read a lot of Neil Gaiman and anything in that kind of ilk because so much of the writing and like the pacing just seems unnecessary. Like I get to whole sections and I'm reading it and I'm just like, this whole description is like unnecessarily long. All of the different like cut-ins, like I know my lower third is Queen of Sheba because that was one of the weirdest cut-ins that happened. But like, why did those happen?
Right.
So like, I liked it. I was just really continuously just like, why is it so long? Why is it so long? It doesn't need to be this long. And that's the problem I always have with Neil Gaiman. Yeah. Like even in when we did Good Omens, and I know that's him and Terry Pratchett, but at the same time I'm just getting there. I'm just like, just one word right now would fix the last 10 pages you just made me read. One word. So that's like, I don't know. So very, very love-hate relationship.
Yes. I am going to say that in that vein, what I had said earlier was that I feel like he was trying to do too many things at once, which is why this was so long, because we have the main plot with Shadow, and then we have all of the little subplots that are going on, like the like somewhat weird murder mystery that's happening, and the like all of the stories about all of these individual gods and how they got to America, because all of those little like vignettes of like, this is what brought these gods here. While I feel that those were the most interesting parts for me, that I really loved those, they didn't necessarily add anything to the like main plot of the story. They were just there as like a world building aspect of like, we have these gods and they're here, and this is sort of how they, I don't know how to say this, like how they're living now. Like, they were gods and now they're like taxi drivers and morticians, and like they have to be normal people.
Yeah, I felt that those were really interesting stories because I agree those are some of the like how the pixies got there, and like this really crazy lady who was like arrested and then married this guy and ran away and like sailed to America, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. But at the same time, I was reminded of one of these books that I read. I can't even remember the name of it now. But it had the whole story, and then it had like a bunch of short stories in the back, like explaining all this backstory. And that's where I would have loved to see those, because I definitely would have gone back and read them. I would have been very interested in them. But cause like, maybe it's just me and having like the knowledge of like the Norse gods and like Egyptian gods that I have, but at the same time I was like, I know where they come from. Like I know this history to a certain extent, and while the story is really cool, I feel like you're just trying to tell me something I already know when what I really want to do is keep reading the story happening now.
Yes, I agree. And so that's what I'm saying, is that he was like doing too many things at once. There's the main plot, there's the subplot, there's all of these like weird, I don't know, asides maybe, of like, look at these gods, they're here too, that type of thing. And that they're interesting. I found them more interesting than the main plot, which is a problem, because then it meant that I was like, this little short story about this god is more interesting than the main plot. Not that the main plot is bad, it was just like there was more character and love put into all of these little things. Like he crafted all of these little stories to sit inside of the larger story, but they were like disconnected in a way.
It's like, I feel if you want to do that, it really has to be as seamless as like one of those Chinese the Russian dolls. Jesus, too many cultures. Because like Catherine Valente did this really awesome Orphan Tales, where like it's a story inside a story inside a story, and like that's really cool, and that has a function. For this, I would have loved it if it had a function, but then I just kind of like waited for any of these stories to really impact the plot in any way, and then the story was just like, and here's another god, and I was like, why? This book is already so long with so many characters and so many cultures, and then you're just like, and in case you forgot these existed, commercial break.
Commercial break. Yeah. Alrighty. Do we want to talk about Shadow as our sort of lens for this story? Because I've got things to say. Do you have things to say?
Yeah. I don't... It was a very interesting concept, I think, of him. Because certainly when I think of someone being told to, like, join the Crusade of the Old Gods, like, an ex-con is not what I think of. So I really enjoyed that, and he definitely had a different view of it, but at the same time, I was just like, this is really... You're just so bland of a person. Yeah. Like I felt, especially since like a lot of the old gods, especially, I mean, in the new gods, were so enigmatic and like had really big personalities.
Right.
And I was just like the most boring character possible.
And I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be like a human versus the gods thing, and like, look how mundane he is versus all of these very interesting characters. But in a way, the gods felt more human because they had those characteristics that like made them quirky and funny and like creepy and interesting. Whereas
I felt the same way. Well, and sometimes like you see gods, and one of a favorite description, like when you put a god into a situation, is that they're very robotic. And that their decisions are very, cut and dry and that kind of thing, because they're like all-knowing and also blah, blah, blah. And really, like, robotic was how I saw Shadow. And I was just like, and he just kind of like derping along on this adventure, and he just like has really no emotional reaction to it for the most part. And I'm just like, buddy, I'd be flipping out. Like, hello, I'm sitting in the car with Odin. Okay.
Yeah. The only thing he seemed to be invested in was the death of his wife, which sort of makes sense, but it's like that dulled everything else that was happening, and he was almost completely, like, not oblivious to it because he's reacting to it, but like uncaring of that because he's too busy in his head going, oh god, I miss my wife. She was pretty and nice.
I just never even like really hooked on that storyline either. Because to a certain extent, like, I understand that had a function in the story.
Yeah.
But to a certain extent, I was just like, this is just another thing that, like, could have... I understand why it's there because unlike some other things, it actually did serve a purpose in
Right.
points. But at the
Yes.
same time, I was like, we could have gotten the same situation without this necessarily having happened, I think.
Right.
Because it is possible.
Yes.
And like, I don't know. I just needed Shadow to have some kind of a personality, and then
Yeah.
he didn't. And I was like, this book is already so long.
Yeah.
I need someone to keep me engaged constantly,
I think that's
and
part of
Shadow
what.
just ain't doing it.
Yeah, that's part of what makes this book take so long is that your protagonist is taking so long. He's like dragging his feet through this novel of like grudgingly going along with everything that's happening. He doesn't really want to be there, but he's there. He's not really interested. He's meeting all of these people who are interesting, but they like show up and disappear constantly. And there's no way to like be like, you show up a lot. I like you. Stay here. There's nobody that does that, really. Even his wife, who is reanimated and follows him around, shows up so sporadically through the novel. I was sort of caught off guard when she had such a key piece in the ending. She was like,
Well, but that's like a perfect example though. Like the first time she shows up, and he's just like, "Hey, you're dead."
it's true.
And that was the moment where I literally broke with Shadow, because like even if you were invested in the death of your wife, when all of a sudden you walk into your motel room and she's just kind of hanging out, like clearly having been reanimated from her grave,
Yeah.
like anything at all, like is
anybody in there?
like that would have been the moment for Shadow to just be like, okay, like this is where I draw the line. And he was just like, hi honey, you're dead.
That's weird. Part of me was wondering if he had like emotional trauma from everything that was happening, so that he was in like a constant state of like, I don't know, like I don't even, just so traumatized that he's like pulled away from himself and everything that's going on, and is just sort of floating in a weird subspace of like, oh, stuff's going on. Uh-huh. Cool.
Again, I mean, that would make sense because a lot of shit did happen to him.
It's
But
true.
at the same time, I was just like, this is not how you narrate a book. A book of this length.
Yeah.
A book of this length has to be narrated by someone with at least one personality trait. Besides dum, or I just want to stab myself in the eye with my Kindle, and that is all.
Yeah. Okay. Who are other main people? Mr. Wednesday, our antagonist, I guess technically.
Tagonist?
Tagonist. He was there.
I couldn't help but love him in a certain way, cause like in the first bit when he like, oh, they're at the convenience store, and he's like, and that first time he's like, she literally paid you for the privilege of like serving you something, and then just like the way he was going about everything.
Yeah.
Because that's never something that I would think of, especially like already having made that connection myself that Mr. Wednesday is Odin.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's not what I would have thought of. And I think that's what I really loved about all of his god interpretations, except for the Egyptian gods in the funeral parlor were a little bit on point compared to everything else. But just like it just wasn't what I thought of. So I was like, all right, I'll give you that.
Yeah. Alrighty. Did you have a favorite character?
I did like the guy whose name I can't pronounce, and don't want to try because somewhere on Twitter Taylor will mock me.
He's already
the
doing
old guy
that. Don't worry.
I know. I know.
The Russian. Is he Russian? Polish?
Hold on. Wait. Wikipedia. Tell me. He's Slavic.
Slavic. I knew it was Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
But just from the first moment where he's like, okay, chess, and if I win, I get to hit you in the head with my hammer.
Hmm.
And then how Shadow's like, all right, well, best of 3, and they both win. And the whole discussion about, well, he's old, so one hit to the head might not kill you. And just like,
Yeah.
after that, I was just like, yes, you are fantastic, and I like you a lot.
All of those Slavic gods were interesting. The 3 sisters, question mark, that took care of the different times of day.
Yeah, the stars.
They were nifty. I don't know. Like you, I'm interested in lore, and that's why I said that's my favorite part, was hearing their backstories. I was like, I don't give a shit about this whole war and Shadow, but like, tell me more about these guys.
Well, because I think that's. I mean, granted, I probably would not have finished this book if we weren't reading it for book club. And because I knew it was gonna be me and you, and I had to say something. But because that's what it was so interesting, was how he took people and took the gods, brought them here, and then juxtaposed them with our new gods.
Yes.
And so I mean, I could sit here and just talk about, like, he brought Egyptian gods and they were in a funeral parlor and it was all great and wonderful, and like, you know how the pixies and the nixies got here. Blah, blah, blah. It's like the actual story. I'm just like, there's old gods and new gods, and both of them want America, but they haven't factored in the fact that it's America. So there's like problems.
All kinds of problems.
America.
Yes. We were actually, you know what, I wanted to say that I think one of the strongest things here was the idea of gods being created by people and only being as powerful as people make them to be. So gods are the all-powerful beings when people believe in them, and then when they sort of lose those followers, they have sort of like a shell of their former selves that they are, and they're still there, and they remember what they once were and are like pained by that. And then bringing in the idea that when we lost religion, we accepted technology as our new religion was really interesting to me. The idea of like, you literally pray to the radio or the television in a way, because you go to it regularly and give up your time and sometimes your money for these things. And how many times you say, please, please work, just work, please, like praying to it literally.
Well, that's what I mean. I think I had almost the same problem with this book that I had with The Magicians last time, which is that the concept is so important.
Yeah.
Especially like taking place in America and like thinking, because I mean, you know, this setting, it had to be here. It had to be America. It had to be where all these people were like transported to, and it just, and then with the whole angle of technology, and like you say, it's all so important, and something you would never think about this way except for maybe necessarily reading this book.
Yeah.
It's just like the way that it was written. I was just like, I'm here for your idea, but the way that you're saying it, just okay.
It's painful. It's a little painful.
Because I will say one thing that I was thinking about the whole time I was reading this. I know that American Gods came first, but Kirsten White, who wrote the Paranormalicy trilogy, did a one-off book called Chaos of the Stars, I think. Chaos in the Stars, and I especially like it because the main character is a daughter of Isis and Osiris, who are, you know, my faves. But it's the same kind of like concept idea where gods are only as strong as people who believe in them, which I've heard before. And so that's I honestly kept thinking of that, but so great concept, execution not my way.
Execution. that kind of covered the setting. Do we want to talk about the like weird ending? Because it was a bit anticlimactic. It was sort of an anticlimax.
I'm gonna make a really, really bad comparison here.
Okay.
And this is not one that Neil Gaiman would ever want me to make.
Oh no.
But like literally reading that, I was just like, oh, it's the ending of Breaking Dawn. Like, all the forces are assembled, we've like discovered like it's been this huge big thing, like, you gotta fight, and then it's just like,
No. I'm gonna give a speech and we're all gonna leave.
It was the ending of Breaking Dawn, though. I was literally sitting there and I was just like, I'd never, ever, ever want to compare people to Twilight, but this just happened, and I don't know how else to deal with this.
Yeah. However, to be fair, I think that was with what was set up. That was what would happen / what should happen.
Yeah. I just really, I don't know. Maybe it's like the action movie fangirl in me, but I was just like, you assembled all these gods, and this is like the showdown of a lifetime, and then you didn't give me anything. And I was sad.
Loki died. That was it.
Yeah, I saw that in Thor 1 too. I know what happens.
I know what happens. Oh no. Alrighty.
I mean, is that, how did you feel about that ending? 'Cause
I kind of disappointed, but I understand why it was the way it was. Because yes, it was totally Odin the entire time being like, I am a god of battle. How best to make a battle? Let's create a war. I'm gonna do that. And then he does it to make himself stronger. Because we talked about how he's only as strong as he gets the sacrifices in his name, and nobody's fighting wars in America ever. Not since the Civil War has there been actual fighting on American soil. He's getting no power here. 0 power. He is literally a beggar. So I see why he would do that, and I also understand how him sort of being our antagonist, the only way to win would be not to fight. But it's not satisfying as a reader. And anyway, it's like, I understand why you're doing this, but dear God, man, I wanted a fight.
Well, that's for me, I guess, what I was just like, because I was like, I just slogged through this whole book. Like, I dealt with Shadow, I dealt with this plot. Like, could there be fireworks somewhere? Fireworks anywhere, please make it. And so I guess the philosopher in me, like, who really enjoyed the concept and the idea, like, that's, yes, it makes sense. But the reader in me was like,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's one of those weird things where you can't, obviously in that situation, you can't please everyone. But yeah.
Then there was the ending with that ended, and then there was the ending with he goes back to his hometown and finds out who's been kidnapping all the girls and killing them, or all the kids and killing them, and that was weird.
I literally felt like the book kind of stuttered, and then it was like, oh wait, there's a little bit of gas left in the machine.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
And I was sitting there, and I was just like, why does it still keep going?
See, I would have been fine with him, like, the battle not happening, and then him going to see the Russian dude to pay his debt. Slavic dude, sorry. And being like, I said that you could kill me, here I am. That would have been great. Why did we need this weird, I know where the children are. I figured it out.
Your problem. There's too many things going on. And in a certain, I don't know why, like, fantasy novels, to a certain extent, feel like they have to have 17 different plots at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's a thing. Like, I understand that you can't just have one plot, or that's, not realistic and kind of gets boring.
Yeah.
Because there's always multiple things going on, but at the same time, it's just like, this didn't need to be here.
Yeah.
This didn't need to, and maybe I would have cared more about the actual plot of the book if I could focus on it a little bit more in terms of just being like, over here, and we're over here, and we're over here now, and we're over here, and by the way, there's kind of this thread tying it all together, but we're over here, we're over here, we're over here, we're over here.
Being they're gods, guys, and they need to get power somehow. That's the only thread.
Yeah.
The only way for the multiple plotline thing to work is if it all feeds together somehow cohesively, and not just with an overarching theme, but with like these things are actually related. Like events here are triggering events here, and that's why these things both need to be addressed, and not just I'm writing a book about the gods, so here's a bunch of gods, and yep, there you go. This involves the gods, so we'll talk about that, and this involves the gods, so we'll talk about that, without pulling it together any better.
And I mean, to a certain extent, I felt like the book, like ending with that final battle that never happened, had one point about gods in America, and then him going to that village had another point about gods in America, and I was just like, I literally, I put my English professor hat on and said, "Sir, you have too many theses." Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you're saying one thing here, and you're saying another thing here, and especially when he said, even when he was writing this book, he had a sequel in mind. And it's like, okay, someone, especially with like this huge glaring hunk on the end, that it's not, you know what I mean? It's not like it's in the middle, like it's hard to like spot, maybe it doesn't fit into any kind of flow. There's literally a huge extra chunk on the end that is so obvious that you could just say, are you sure for this book, are you sure that, what? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just like, say you have an important idea, an important concept, but you need to choose one thing to say.
Yeah.
Like, Shadow's already the hero when he goes back there. He's already saved the world. He's already made a huge point. Like, the whole book has already made a huge point about, gods and their power in America.
Yeah.
Just say one thing. Book is so long!
Do you think that this would have been better without the asides describing how the gods got to America, and just of him meeting gods and sort of him subtly realizing that they are, or not realizing, and it just sort of being described, and if you know about those gods in that religion, you'll like get the clues? If that makes sense, like, because there are those chapters where it's like, and this is how the pixies got here, because there was an Irish guy, and he was like, you need to put milk out for your crops. Type stuff.
I mean, because I'm with you in the certain point where I find that the most interesting, but I do feel like I said earlier, that could have been an appendix.
Or it could have been a group of short stories, like, The Martian Chronicles. Because those were all short stories on a theme. These could all be short stories on a theme. Or those would have worked better if we saw those gods falling apart over time. Because you get those vignettes of them arriving, and then sometimes you see them later on in the story, occasionally, as like the characters that they are, like at their worst. Or relatively bad because nobody's believing in them. But if like we got like only a handful of those and like showed little vignettes at different points in time when people still believed them, and then less people believed in them and less people believed in them, that would have tied in more of like building up to this. We're all tired and we need something to happen. If that makes sense.
No, I agree, because I mean I think it goes back to our earlier point of just needing the story to tie together in some way.
Yeah.
It was just a very long, chunky kind of story. Yeah. And I think that at a certain point you need to either decide to take out some of the chunks or really tie them together better.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly what you're just saying. Like, they would have made more sense to me. Because I definitely want them there. Like, I want them because they're my favorite part. Right. But I'm not sure if that's like me being like because I know they weren't necessarily as important to the story as it is now. I think it's more me like not wanting to kill my darlings in the book, if that makes sense.
No, I said that too, those were my favorite parts, that I didn't care at all about the main plot of this book or Shadow. I was like, whatever. Can you just tell me more about Celtic gods and what's happening to them? The Morrigan's pretty cool. Let's learn more about them. Trying to think. I know, I think that's everything.
Oh, can I just say that the whole "oh, you're my son" bit
Oh my god.
just like throw me off a cliff now.
Luke, I am your father.
But like actually though, when that happened, I was just like, why? And then I literally sat there and I was just like, is this the only reason we've been saddled with your personality-less terribleness the whole time? Because you're his son, and therefore you had to be here even though everyone hates you? Like, I needed Shadow to have one redeeming quality, and it wasn't that. That was just literally like the straw that broke the camel's back.
But like,
I was like, no.
All of the gods loved Shadow. They were all like, he's so charismatic and I just want to protect him. Cute. And I'm sitting here
I
like,
literally think that
what?
he had God axe on. That is clearly all that he could have. He was literally starring in a God axe commercial, and we, as non-gods, did not understand the allure.
Because the Nancy was like, come here, my boy, you'll be under my wing now. And all of the Slavic gods were like, we like you, we're going to help you do stuff. And everybody, every single god in this story was like, you're so cute. Oh. Trying to do stuff, little human. Aww.
And then literally I'm just sitting there, I was like, he's mute, dumb, and personalityless. Why? I think here's your problem, gods. You've been looking at the wrong humans. Because if this is your level of human, you need to up the bar a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, that was my one little stupid thing where I was just like,
I agree. I think that's everything. Is there anything else to rant about? Specifically, we've kind of been complaining about it the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you can complain about little sections, but then it's this big problem with the whole book. I don't know.
It didn't click. It was like it put a bunch of puzzle pieces down, and some of them connected, and then you were left with a bunch of empty, like, other puzzle pieces. Like, what am I supposed to do with these? Why were they even here? Were they just here to confuse me? I mean, they look pretty, so that's nice, but they don't fit anywhere.
I mean, legitimately, I agree with that. It's like he threw at least 2 different puzzles into the same box and then tried to make one story. And because like I would take like you could split this off into like either like the gods deteriorating or you know what I mean? There are different stories being told here and different things he's trying to say that are all somehow mishmashed into the story, and so none of them is said in quite the right way.
Right.
And so like I would love like, and granted I've never read Anansi Boys, so I don't know what that is. But like I would have loved like just Shadow's story told better, more succinctly, and then just like or like an appendix of those gods or like something. Something just different. A different way of being written.
Overall, beautiful, longer than it needed to be, anticlimactic, but not a terrible book.
No, I think I run up to the same thing that I said about The Magicians, which is that I wouldn't recommend it to everyone. But at the same time, I think that it says something very, very important. The Magicians are trying to say something important about growing up, and this just saying something very interesting about religion in America. So maybe 2 different I words there, but the same kind of thing. I would recommend it on the sheer fact of just like think about this way. Isn't it awesome?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
The plot is not the best part, but the atmosphere and the moral compass of this story, in a way, is what's the important bit. I think that's everything. Do you want to shout out your stuff?
Yes. As I did, because I'm a moron. Notebook, and God willing, because I'm finally back from being abroad, that will start to look more like the book blog it should. So that is adkwriter15.wordpress.com. And basically, adkwriter15 is what you need to remember to find me on Twitter, on Tumblr, Goodreads, it's my name, Gretchen C. Homeyer, and Facebook, it's My Life as a Notebook, which is the name of my blog. But yeah, I'm all over the place, legitimately, like in my mind as well. So that's me. Oh, and if you did watch this whole thing, you cannot miss the accompanying tweets made by Taylor on the Bibliomancy 101 Twitter, because I've been keeping up on them as we've gone through, and it's basically a lot of him mocking me. So look at those.
He's a picture of a pony being me, so you're fine.
Well, my phone won't stop buzzing because I get notifications every time someone mentions me on Twitter, and it's just like
keep
buzz.
A little thing on my computer that's like badoop, tweet, mention.
Yep.
Badoop.
So Taylor is in Scotland and yet still is annoying. So
it's worth it. Alrighty. If you want to find me, I am thepiedpipercalls.wordpress.com or at piedpipercalls everywhere. Instagram, Twitter, Vine. I'm ravensinthenight.sky.tumblr.com if you want to look at a bunch of super cute K-pop boys and girls. And I'm staringatblankpages.tumblr.com if you want to follow my blog on Tumblr, my book blog on Tumblr rather than on WordPress if it's easier for you. We have Bibliomancy social media, like Gretchen said, Bibliomancy 101 on Twitter, Bibliomancy the number 4 beginners on Instagram and Vine. And we're going to hope to be using these more as the year goes on and we do full things. Taylor and I might do a small one over spring break like we did. That's just words, typing a bloggy thing. If he has time / wants to read something, because we both read stuff all the time. It might be a comic thing. We don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. But we'll be back in the summertime, and hopefully we'll have guest mancers and stuff, because I've been recruiting English major friends that we have to read stuff and talk about it. Alrighty. We'll see you guys at some point. You can follow the Goodreads group. All of the stuff is linked below, and you'll know when we're starting up again. Alrighty. Annyeong.